Hey, this is Randall Levels, and today I had one of the most wonderful experiences, and it all happened in a waiting room. Today I had to go for my checkup for my eye, which I had lost 2 months ago, and the the experience when going to these checkups is a lot of anticipation, a lot of anxiety of will you be able to move on to the next phase, um, and is there going to be a positive review of what they see as far as the injury. I had something poke me in the eye and I lost my vision completely in my right eye, but they can restore it. It just has to go through the healing process. And the the diagnosis is that I have to wait a little bit longer in order for a specialist to look at it and then give the final say of when they can perform the final surgery. But there's a process that they go through of when they admit you, they check you out, and then they have to call the attending physician in to give you that diagnosis that you can move on to the next stage, or no, they have to wait. And before you go in to see the attending physician, they put you in a separate waiting room. And in this waiting room, what usually happens is that everyone is quiet, and they are reading books or magazines or looking at their phone, and not very much conversation goes on at all. But there happened to be a man that was sitting across from me, and he was staring at me, and I noticed that I looked up, and he he looked at me and said, "Do I know you?" And I said, "No, I haven't seen you here before." And he said, "I think I know you from working for the phone company." I was like, "No, I didn't work for the phone company." And I told him that I had worked for an irrigation company years ago, and about 14 years ago to be exact. And he says, "Oh, really?" And then he says, "I have a situation going on with my irrigation system." And he started to tell me what the situation was, and I gave him the remedies that he was looking for, all the solutions that he needed. And he came over. He was sitting across from me, and then he came over and sat next to me, and we continued to talk and talked about the situation. And when he got up, when the doctor called him to come in for his checkup, he said, "Thank you very much, that really helped me a whole lot." And I said, "Thank you." And as he was walking out, there happened to be one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight other people in the waiting room. And one of the ladies, her name was Kathy, said that some people will, they'll just, once they find out something, will try to get all the information out of you that they can. And I just kind of chuckled. I said, "Yeah, it's okay," um, because I was happy to give the information. But she began to tell me, or she asked me why I was in for an eye appointment. And she said, "I heard you have a cataract." And I said, "Yeah, it came from the injury." And she said, "Do you have old eyes?" And I was like, "No, I don't have old eyes. It actually was brought on by the injury. So they're going to try to fix it and repair it." Uh, and she said, "Well, I was born with old eyes." And she began to explain to me that when she was born breech, and she was not even supposed to be here. She was supposed to, she was at her birth. They had called the priest in and had the papers for her parents to sign for her death because they expected her to die. And she said, "It's a miracle that I'm here." But, I had to have 14 surgeries to have my vision corrected so I could even see. And I see just fine. The only problem I have is that I can only see good out of one eye for distance and good out of one eye for up close. And what they had to do for her is they had to wait a minute. This is going to be a little bit graphic, so just hold your stomach. But for her surgery, when she was a baby, they had to uh, split her skull and go into the back of her eye to repair her retina. Um, and from then on, she continued to have surgery after surgery after surgery. And now she's living a normal life. and she just has to have checkups and everything. Um, but what she did explain is that some of these things are miracles, and it's a miracle that we're even here and we're even alive. And then she began to tell me about her husband, who happens to be one of the best welders in the state, and he's retired now. And everyone goes to him for advice and counseling on what to do, and all the farmers and where they live call him and him only to fix any broken machinery that they have, because he's the best and he has the most biggest and generous heart. And she just loves that man with all her heart. And I said, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, is for a woman to adore her husband like that. And we just continued to talk, and I told her that the biggest thing that happened for me is when I had my injury and I lost my sight. There was no fear. There were really no thoughts that went through my head. And it was all because of all the past experiences that I had in my life that prepared me for this moment, that I would be standing there and have no fear. And, I began to explain to her that it does come from God, that when circumstances or situations happen, that there was a promise that a peace that passes all understanding will guard your heart and mind through Christ Jesus. And it was at that moment that I really realized what that meant when it was said, because all the fear and all the loss that I thought I could have had and maybe should have experienced, it just never came over me. And in fact, I told her it made me better. It gave me a better vision of what people are and how precious your friends are, how precious your family is, and how precious, each and every moment that you have to live is. And so we continued to talk, and she told me about a couple other stories about her son, the miracles that has happened with her son. I told her about the miracle of my son, that he was born and he was never supposed to be able to walk or talk and have normal function, and now I can't keep him still. He won't stop talking, and I just love it because I remember the past, and now every moment that he asks me something, and he's only 12, every moment that he asks me something, I just laugh and have to engage with him, because it's just a miracle that he's even asking me these questions. So the lady, Kathy, began to tell me about a few more things, and some of the tears and emotions were getting, taking a hold of me, and one of the things that I started to realize is that this is all happening in a place where we're anticipating a bad report, or we're anticipating something that's not going to make us happy. But we found happiness and a sense of calm in something as simple as a waiting room. The gentleman next to me then got in on the conversation, and had his positive input to the whole conversation. And the lady that was sitting a little bit to the right of me, across from me, she got up and moved closer. She said, "I want to be in on this conversation. I want to hear what you guys are saying, because this is just, truly awesome to hear this." And it was a high point of a day that I didn't expect. I couldn't see coming. I didn't try to make it happen, but it was a miracle that it happened in in some place where a bad report could be given. And I did get a bad report on my end, is that I have to wait a few more weeks before they will actually take the stitches out, before they can tell me, or their sutures, before they can tell me when I can have my next surgery. And so but as Kathy got up, as the doctor called her, I had this feeling from talking to her and building that relationship in such a short time, that I wanted to get up and give her a hug while before she left. And no sooner than she stood up, she came straight towards me with open arms and gave me a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And she said, you're truly beautiful and amazing. And, you know, I'm so glad I met you. And, situations and circumstances happen to people, and they can either make the most of them or the worst of them. It's a choice that you make. But sometimes the unexpected happens, and something as simple as a waiting room. One last thing that happened is that as I was going to check out from my appointment with the doctor, I saw her husband come in behind her, and she was sitting next to me in the other booth. And I said, "You must be the wonderful man that she's talking about." And he just looked at me and kind of looked at me with wonder and amazement, going, like, "What is this guy talking about?" And I said, "This must be him to Kathy." And she looked up at me and laughed and smiled. And I gave her a kiss on the cheek and I left. And I just have to tell you that sometimes when you're in the waiting room, be ready for a miracle to happen. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to go to bed because it's kind of late. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.